So today morning, I came downstairs to go to work. I unlocked the car, and the first thing I see is this huge jumping spider, this rather big spider, comes jumping out and starts hopping away. And so I decided, okay, from now on, I'm not going to leave the windows open to cool down the car when it's hot. Okay, so we're at work again. And so far, definitely feeling less homesick than before. But many people travel to different states for their internships, so I'm very, very lucky. Also, we covered very interesting concept of many-to-many relationships in databases yesterday. Hey everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm currently a third-year student pursuing a computer science degree at Kriya University, Andhra Pradesh. Today I'll be telling you about my first ever software engineering internship experience, or just my first internship of any kind. So let's get right into it. Right, so before this internship experience, I'd previously had no work experience of any kind, and so this was an eye-opening experience for me. I'm going to go into what exactly I worked on at the company I worked with, and what life was like as an intern. The duration of my internship was around 1 month, and I joined about 2 weeks later than the other interns, and so I was introduced to the project a little later. The project we were tasked with was to build a web application from the ground up that used databases and various application programming interfaces that basically allowed a user to log into their account and take a quiz based on their configuration. So if you're studying a certain subject, say software design, you would take a quiz on software design. That was what the goal of the internship was. Now, to settle all kinds of doubt, my project would not be used by the organization Litmus7. It was just a project assigned to us to get done. The languages or computer science languages I used to do this project were MySQL for databases, Python for the API or application programming interface, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the web pages, and finally, no, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. And basically, what the software would do was it would draw from a question bank that had a bunch of questions in it, and it would take those questions, see which ones were not similar to each other. So, for example, if you take two questions, define software and what is software, they're basically the same question, right? And so we had to use an existing model, or kind of a language model, to separate those two, to ensure that two questions with essentially the same semantic meaning did not get repeated in your quiz. That was a big goal. That was largely the goal of the Python program we wrote, which was basically to use a large language model or a language model of sorts to distinguish between the semantic meanings of sentences to avoid duplicates. Now, I will include all these code samples. They're all visible on my GitHub, which you can visit using the link in the description below. So if you're not in the computer science or software engineering space, I'm going to help you understand how this software worked. Think of it like a car. Right, so in a car you've got the things that you can see and the things you can't see. So in a car you have the steering wheel and the brake acceleration, but you can't see the engine. So you can think of, say, the engine, the radiator, all this stuff as the back end of the software, and the steering wheel and the seats and the buttons and the cabin as the front end of the software. By this analogy, HTML would be like the skeleton of the car. CSS would be like all the leather, the wooden dash, all the designs in the car, all the colors, basically all the form. And the function would come down to the engine and the brakes and the motor and the discs and the pistons, all that stuff. That would be kind of the Python side of things. Now, on top of this, you've got to remember that the application has to get its data from somewhere. In this case, the data would be the question bank that we're drawing questions from, a set number of questions. So say 20 questions out of all the questions in the question bank. So that database was created using a language called MySQL. That's the name of the language. You can use MySQL commands such as this or this to essentially draw a given set of rows in tables from the database. A database is a set of tables or even a single table. You can create a database and name it whatever you want. You can create tables in that database and again name them whatever you want. And you can change the number of columns and rows a table has. This is where my application drew its data from. So, for example, as I mentioned, this is a question answer web application. Those questions have to come from somewhere, right? Those questions are stored on a MySQL database. And those questions will be drawn from the database using Python. Now you might be thinking, Daniel, you just said MySQL is the language used to create databases. Why aren't you using MySQL to draw the questions from the database? Well, you actually are using MySQL and Python. You use Python to connect the front end to the database. Think of it like this. That's the software side of things. But what about the rest? Life as an intern. I met 4 other software engineering interns there who I worked with to work on the software. These are some great people. Like, one of them is from NIT and the other 3 are from VIT Vellore. I learned a lot from them and it was quite a fun experience interning with them. If you guys are watching, you guys are pretty awesome. This was kind of a hybrid internship situation. So basically you have 3 types of internships, right? You've got remote, which means you're working from home or wherever you want. It's completely online. You've got on-site, which means you have to go to an office and work there. So basically you go to office some days and you work from home some days. In my case, it became a hybrid internship. There were days when we were just told to just spend the whole day learning. Those days we would go home and learn. We'd come back the next day to the office and work on the project together. So, just arrived at work. So today we're doing APIs, or application programming interface. Like, for example, if you want to see Twitter posts on a different website that's not Twitter, you would use Twitter's API. So that's what we'll be working on today. We'll be learning it and trying to implement it in Python. A simple one at least. So they turn the AC on in the office by around 8:40 or something. It's 8:30 right now. My working period was officially considered a 9 to 5 situation, so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So being at the office by 9 required leaving by around 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. latest. But being someone who wants to prepare for all sorts of issues, I left at 7:30 a.m. Just so I could take my time because the traffic was pretty bad. And speaking of traffic, yes, I did have to drive to work. Guys, I want you to see this. This is so cool. Look at the color of this Macan. Because it just made a lot more sense compared to taking an Uber to work, because you're actually saving a lot of cash. Plus, I just love driving, so I took up the opportunity. Now, driving back from work was another story, because your work finishes by maybe 5 p.m. But in reality, things are here and there, and so you might end up leaving the office by like 5:40 or 5:30, because maybe some extra work was there, or maybe you were just talking to your fellow interns. The weather also played a role, so if it was super rainy, our intern head would actually say, you guys can leave the office earlier today, 1 or 2 hours earlier, because the weather is bad. So yeah, over the course of about a month, I worked on the project that we were assigned, which was, again, a multiple choice questions web application. As I said, the code is visible on my GitHub. And by the end, we were told we're supposed to present or basically demo our software to our intern head in on a projector and show them our working application. As you can imagine, nearing the presentation date, things got a little more stressful. It was really quite a good challenge. This was like the definition of a fun challenge to me. Sometimes it was super stressful because my code did not run, but once I got the code working and kind of understood how everything worked and ran successful demos of logging in and taking a quiz and seeing my score on the screen, it was a good feeling. It really is a good feeling. It really hits different when you've built the software on your own. After doing this, I now have a lot of respect for actual software developers. This was quite a challenge for me because it was my first time really meshing all these different back-end, front-end layers together for the first time on my own. By the way, I apologize for the lack of uploads. I've been really caught up in my work, and also every time I try to film this video, there's always something gets in the way. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you found this one useful. See ya. Guys, I don't have an umbrella. I'm absolutely screwed. The app is supposed to be ready by today, but I've encountered some issues connecting the different components of the app. The internship was technically supposed to end today, but because of my issues, I might have to stay a bit longer for a few more days. Doing an app like this is something I've wanted to do ever since I started learning Python. This was what I was all kind of building up to, and it's so cool that this is possible for free. Okay guys, this is it. That was my last day as an intern at Litmus7. It's been wonderful. It's been challenging, but I've learned a lot. Okay, let's go.